Hello and good morning, dear students. So we are back again with our online classes. I am going to start with a new chapter today. We have completed economics chapter 1. I hope all have gone through it. Now I am going to start with economics chapter 2, sectors of Indian economy. Sectors of Indian economy. Okay, what is the meaning of a sector? Sectors are groups of economic activities. Sectors are group of economic activities that result in production of goods and services. In simple words, all the work we do, suppose your daddy is a doctor or I am a teacher or someone is working in the bank or whatever, someone is a driver, whatever, right? So when we work in a particular activity, it is called as a sector. All the activities of that type are grouped together and that is called as a sector. So sectors are a group of economic activities that result in production of goods and services. People working in the same sector are grouped together. So suppose teachers, doctors, lawyers, bankers, what we provide services, right? We provide services. So we are grouped in one sector. So people who provide the same type of services are grouped together and thus they are all working in the same sector. Are you clear? I hope you are clear, right? So this is the meaning of sectors. Now, as I have already given example, the sectors are divided into 3 groups. Yes, that means all the people who work, they may be farmers or they may be doctors or they may be engineers or astronauts or anyone you talk about, people who are working in the factories or in IT departments or anything. These are divided into 3 sectors. So the first sector is primary sector, right? So when we produce a good using natural resources, it is called as primary sector. Example, agriculture, animal husbandry, that is dairy, fishing, forestry, etc. Now this is also called as agricultural sector. Now in the primary sector, most of the people or the most dominating of all the sectors is agriculture. In simple words, maximum number of people in the primary sector are occupied in agriculture and allied activities. Therefore, primary sector is also called as agricultural sector. So out of the 3 sectors, the first sector is primary sector. I hope this is clear. The second sector is called secondary sector. Now what is secondary sector? These are activities in which natural products are changed into other forms with added value in the industries. Okay, now what is secondary sector? In simple words, all the people who are providing their services or who are working in the industries are occupied in the secondary sector. Now what does this industries do? The industries add value to the primary product. What does the industry do? The industries add value to the primary product. Now how? Suppose just now we have done agriculture is a primary sector. So we grow cotton, the farmers grow cotton in the form of the primary sector, that is through agriculture. This cotton is made into a cloth or a ready-made garment where in the factories. Yes, so what did the factory provide to the cotton? The factory provided added value to the cotton, raw cotton, which was produced in the agricultural sector. So secondary sector add value to the primary sector. In the secondary sector, industries are the most dominating. Rather, they are the only important work that the people do. Therefore, secondary sector is also called as industrial sector, right? Now the third sector is tertiary sector. What is tertiary sector? These are the activities that help in the development of primary and secondary activities. It provides services. In simple words, what is tertiary sector? Tertiary sector is also called as service sector because they provide services to the primary and the secondary sector. Like example, teacher or a doctor or a lawyer. What do we provide? We provide services. Yes, these services are needed. Suppose a driver, yes, they are also providing tertiary services. We talk about ATM. What does the ATM provide? It provides tertiary services. It works on behalf of the bank in dispersing money or cash, right? So what is tertiary sector? The tertiary sector is also called as service sector because they provide services to the primary as well as the secondary sector. Yes, so tertiary sector is currently the most important sector out of the three sectors. Now example is bank, transportation, teachers and doctors. I hope the three sectors and with their examples is clear. This is an important part. Please pay attention to the following. Okay children, so wait, we are now with the next slide. How do we compare the three sectors? What did we do? There are three sectors, primary, secondary and tertiary. Primary sector is called agricultural sector. Secondary sector is called industrial sector. Tertiary sector is called service sector. Now, how do we compare these three services or sectors? To find out the share of. Now, how do we compare? Meaning, what is their contribution in the national income? In other words, what is the contribution of these three sectors in the GDP? Now, what is GDP? See in the next point I have given in the second point, GDP is the gross domestic product, the total production of the country. What is GDP? The sum of production in three sectors. The sum of production in three sectors is called as gross domestic product. It shows how big the economy is. We talk about countries which are big or rich countries, countries which are poor or developing or developed countries. Now, how do we say that a country is rich or a country is middle income or low income group? It depends upon how much the primary, secondary and the tertiary sector is able to earn in the particular sectors in the particular country's GDP. So how do we compare the three sectors? To find out the share of each sector in the gross domestic product, that is GDP of a year, we count the value of final goods and services produced during that year. Now, we have seen national income in the first chapter. National income is the total income of the people living within a country. We add together, that is called as the national income. Now, in this national income, suppose we want to find out what is the role, how much is the contribution of primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. So when we try to find out the contribution of primary, secondary and tertiary sector in our national income or in the GDP, what happens? We have to find out how much the primary, secondary or the tertiary sector is able to earn. How much meaning? The people who are employed in these sectors, what is their contribution, how much they are able to earn. So how much they are able to earn is called as the final goods. Final goods. Suppose we go to the market, we buy a TV set, right? So when we buy a TV, it might be costing 40,000, 50,000, whatever amount of money, right? So when we pay for the TV, we are paying the final cost, that is called as the final cost of the TV. When I pay rupees 40,000 for a TV set, that is its final value, right? So meaning, when we buy the TV, we will not ask the shopkeeper what is the particular what is the price of the particular screen or the picture tube or whatever things are in the TV or the cable or whatever switches or the remote, we do not ask, right? What do we pay? We pay the final price of the TV. So that when we find out the share of the three sectors in the economy, what do? We count the value of final goods and services produced during that year. So we find out what is the contribution of the primary, secondary and tertiary sector in a particular year, right? I hope this is clear. Okay, now historical change in the sectors. What has happened that if you talk about India 50, 70, 80 years back, how were we? We were an agricultural country, right? Agriculture was the most dominating sector of India. So what happened now, if you talk about how many people are employed in which sector and how much they are able to earn in the GDP, there is a total change in the contribution of the three sectors in our economy, and that is called as the historical change in sectors. So if you check the last 100 years of India, what we will find, there is a great change in how much or what is the contribution of primary, secondary and tertiary sector. Now, for a long time, primary sector was the most dominating of all sectors. Everyone know that India was called an agricultural country or agrarian economy, and because maximum number of people worked in agriculture and allied activities, and the income of the people was very low because most of the people only worked in the agricultural sector. Secondary sector gradually became the most important in total production and employment. Slowly what happened? People started moving from agriculture, new industries started to be made in India. They started employing people. There was a need of people to work in the industries during the First World War or during the Second World War, and people started shifting from primary sector, that is from agriculture, to secondary sector, and the contribution of secondary sector started to increase both in terms of production as well as in employment. All right. Third, now there has been a further shift from secondary to tertiary sector in the developed countries. In the developed countries, what happened? There was a great shift of services from the primary to secondary, from the secondary to the tertiary sector, especially in which countries? In the developed countries. One of the reasons the big countries are called as developed countries or rich countries is because they have shifted from primary to secondary and secondary to tertiary sector. Now, service sector became the most important in terms of total production. Today, if we talk about the contribution of service sector, that is the tertiary sector, it is the largest in all over the world, especially also we are talking about India. In India, the contribution of the service sector is now the largest. Okay, so rising importance of tertiary sector in production. What did we do? There is a historical change, and there is a great shift from primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary sector in terms of what? In terms of providing their contribution in the GDP plus giving employment to people, right? So now, rising importance of tertiary sector in production. From 2003, the tertiary sector became the largest producing sector in India. From 2003, there has been a great shift from primary to secondary and from secondary to tertiary sector. It does not mean that primary and secondary sector is totally finished or stopped. No. But the contribution of tertiary sector in India has become very large from 2003. Now, there is an important question. If you see, I have put a star over there. You have to learn. This is a very important question in terms of board exam also. So, why is tertiary sector becoming so important in India? Yet, there are reasons why tertiary sector has become so important in India. Okay, first, in developing countries like India, several new services are required now. What has happened in modern times? See, when we go to a hospital, something happens to anybody in our home. Suppose there is a heart attack or a fracture, a multiple fracture, things like that happen. What happens? What we say? We do not have proper services of hospital in Ratlam. So what people do? They go to Baroda, they go to Ahmedabad, they go to Indore for finding better hospitals and services, even if we have to pay more. So, what is the question? Why tertiary sector is becoming so important? In developing countries like India, several new services are required now, like hospitals, schools, police, courts, etc. Now, these all are provided by tertiary sector. All the people who work in the hospitals or in the schools or in the court, or they are providing services to the people. So, these are all provided by the tertiary sector. Therefore, tertiary sector is becoming so important. Second, development of agriculture and industry lead to development of services such as transport, trade, etc. What is the meaning? More and more, see, agriculture today has become modernized. Right? Modern agriculture require all the modern facilities like tractors, threshers, pesticides, weedicides, and so many other things. Right? All big machines, mechanical farming is done, poly houses are made, and so many sprinkles are there, and so many things are required for modern agriculture. So modern agriculture and industry, if demand from agriculture increases, demand from industries also is provided. Whatever is asked by the agriculture sector, it is produced by the industries, and it will increase the services. The number of people who provide services has also increased. Therefore, in these times, the tertiary sector has become important. Third point, income of people has increased. See children, if you find out, previously most of the people worked in the agricultural sector. Most of the people worked in the agriculture sector. They had very low income, right? But now, with modernization, the service sector, that is, the people who work in the tertiary sector, their income has increased a lot. Like, so what happened? People have more money. So if you have more money, what you want to do? You want to spend them. People go for holidays, people go in the hotels for eating, people go for recreation services, people demand for more services, they demand for better quality things. So what happened? Income of the people have increased in the recent years. As a result, they demand new and more services, like what? Tourism, eating out, shopping. If you talk about the shopping, malls or any other types of shopping, what has happened? We talk about e-shopping. There is a lot of shopping. People have developed this habit, and because they have a lot of money. And from where do they get the money? Their income has increased because of working in the tertiary sector or secondary or modernization of agricultural sector. Next point, over the past decade means one decade has how many years? 10 years. One century have how many years? 100 years. Okay. So over the past decade, many new services have started, such as information and communication. Many new services have started. If you talk about, many of our young boys and girls are working in the metropolitan cities, you talk about it. They are working in Noida, they are working in Pune or Bangalore, and what are they doing? When we ask, they are employed in IT industries, right? So these IT industries provide high salaries So what happened? Income of the people have increased because of working in the IT sector. So when the income of the people is more, what they do? They want to spend more. So in the recent years, the tertiary sector has become very important. Please learn by heart. This is an important part of the chapter. Okay, now just now we have seen we have three sectors: primary, secondary and tertiary. Now the question is, where are most of the people employed? What did we do? We have primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. Now out of these three sectors, where are most of the people employed? If you check in the book, you will get graphs which are giving one base year and one current year, and they have given the data, the figures of where are most of the people employed. So more than half of the workers in the country, we are talking about India, are employed in the primary sector, that is agriculture, producing a quarter of GDP. Now see the two things, differences. More than half. So if you say 60%, I say more than half means we consider 60%, suppose. So if 60% of people are working in primary sector, how much they are able to produce? Only a quarter in the GDP. What is GDP? Gross domestic product, meaning their contribution in the national income for that particular year, right? Secondary and tertiary sector produce 3/4 of the produce and employ less than half of the people. Already we have seen. Suppose we consider 60 or 65% people working in agricultural sector, they are able to produce only 1/4 in the GDP. And secondary and tertiary sector are providing 3/4 in the GDP, but employing less than half of the people in India. That means contribution of secondary and tertiary sector is very, very high, right? High in what? In income, but less in what? In employment. Agriculture is more in employment, less in income generation. Third, it means that more number of people are employed in agriculture than what is needed. Right? So when more number of people are employed in an agricultural sector than what is required, they are called as disguised. They are called as disguised or extra. They are called as disguisedly unemployed. So we are coming to unemployment. Types of unemployment. What is unemployment? A person who is educated or who wants to work but he doesn't have any work is called as unemployed. Right? He is called as unemployed. So what are the types of unemployment? First is underemployment. Underemployment. When more number of people are employed in a work than what is required, it is called underemployment. Here all people work but less than their potential. It is called as hidden unemployment or disguised unemployment. See, I will explain with an example, very simple. On a particular piece of land, 2 people are required to produce 100 kg of grain. I repeat, on a particular piece of land, 2 people are required to produce 100 kg of grain. Right? Now, if 2 more are added, they also produce 100 kg of grain. 2 more are added, meaning how many? 2 can produce 100 kg, but now 6 are working. All 6 are also working, but they are able to produce only how many kg of grains? 100 kg of grain. That means how many people are required to work on that piece of land? Only 2. How many are working? 6. So the other 4 are what? Underemployed, or they are facing what type of unemployment? Disguised unemployment. Say disguised unemployment or hidden unemployment or underemployment. I hope I am clear. Please go through this part in the book also and make things clear for you. Now, how to create more employment? It is the duty of the government to create employment for the people. Now, in recent times, you have seen because of the pandemic, crores of people have migrated back to their villages. Now, the government of the particular states and the central government is trying hard so that a number of those migrant workers can get employment. So, how to create employment for the people? Who creates employment? The government creates employment for the people. So, the government can take some measures to provide employment to people. Now, what are those measures? Suppose banks can provide a small loan. Why? The farmers can buy seed, they can buy fertilizers, pesticides, or they can buy some modern equipments through which what they can do? Increase their productions. So banks can provide a small loan to buy seed or fertilizers at a reasonable rate of interest. Then providing transportation, so construction of roads in the villages, providing transportation so that whatever the farmers produce, their produce can be taken by the roads through the trucks in the mandis, in the cities or in the big markets to be sold. Yes, then promotion of local industries. Whatever things are produced in that particular area, those industries can be encouraged. Beekeeping, or so many small industries, basket making or pottery industries, or some local industries can be started which will give employment to people. Yes, so plus so many other types of things the government does and it can do to create employment for the people. Suppose construction of small dams, then reconstruction of buildings or renovation of buildings or plantation of trees during the rainy season. All this work the government have to do so as welfare works, so that it will provide jobs or it will provide employment to the people. Now, one of the very important employment facility provided by the government is NREGA. Okay, NREGA 2005, National Rural Employment Generation Act. National Rural Employment Generation Act. When was this act made? It was passed in which year? 2005. Now it is also called as MGNREGA. MG means Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Generation Scheme or Act of 2005. Now, what does this NREGA means? It is a short term, this is very important, please pay attention. It is a short term employment measure started by the central government under the right to work. According to the right to work, every individual who is able to work should get employment. So, this is employment measure which is a short term employment measure started by the central government under the right to work in 200 districts. Later, this NREGA was increased in 625 districts of India. It is called National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. Under NREGA 2005, all those who are able to and are in need of work have been guaranteed 100 days of employment in a year. The government provide 100 days of employment in a year to all the people in that area who are able to work. If, now see, there is a if also, if the government is not able to provide them employment, or if the government fails in their duty to provide employment to the people for 100 days in a year, they will provide unemployment allowances to the people. Unemployment allowances meaning a particular amount of money, a sum of money to the people in return if the government is not able to provide them work for 100 days. Please learn this by heart, this is very important. Okay, now organized and unorganized sector. Some people, all the people who work in the primary, secondary and tertiary sector, the sectors are divided as organized and unorganized. Organized sectors cover those places of work where the terms of employment are regular, People have assured work, they are registered by the government, and they follow all rules and laws. Workers have security of employment, and they also have fixed working hours. They get overtime. Suppose your daddy is working in railway, or we are working in the school, or in any government, or in banks, or any other places. We all are working in organized sector. So organized sector is that sector in which rules and laws are practiced, which are made by the government. Unorganized sector, it covers small and scattered units which are outside the control of the government. Rules and laws are there, but no one is following. The workers can anytime be removed from their work, and they are paid very low and irregular. You can go through from the book, and it is given in detail about organized and unorganized sector. The workers in the organized sectors have security of work, but the workers in the unorganized sectors do not have security of work. They are very much at risk. Okay, now sectors in terms of ownership. On the basis of ownership, meaning who owes the factors of production. Now, what are the factors of production? In 9th class we have done land, labor and capital. Land, labor and capital. Who is the owner of those factors? Will be the owner of the particular sector. So, according to ownership, the sectors are divided as public sector and private sector. What is public sector? Suppose Indian Railways. Public sector is run and controlled by government. The government owns the assets. All the ownership is of the government and is responsible of delivery of services. That is railways. Now private sector, if you have heard of Reliance Industries, yes, owners are the Ambanis. So it is a private sector. Now what is private sector? It is run and controlled by private individuals and companies. Example, Tata Iron and Steel Company or Reliance. Okay, so the last part of the chapter. Now there are many services which the government have to support. Suppose railways. If we compare railway and a flight, yes, or airways, what happens? The railways provide very cheap services to people. Okay, we talk about the railway ticket from Ratlam to Indore is just 30 or 40 rupees, right? But if you board a bus, if you board a chartered bus for Indore from Ratlam, it may charge you 200 or 250 rupees. What does that mean? Many services like railways or construction of dams, construction of power plants, construction of roads, electrification, and so many big things is done by government, because the private sector will not do them. See, the government does the work with long gestation period, right? Meaning the government will spend on these works. Suppose construction of dam will take crores of rupees. In this private sector will not work. Why? Because they want to spend the money today and they want to earn the profit very early. But the government, it is not possible. They will spend in construction of dam and the profit will come after 30-40 years when the dam started to work or start producing hydroelectricity. So certain activities only is taken by the government because the duration from where they will get the profit is very long. In these type of services, private sector doesn't work. So this includes supply of electricity, construction of dams, etc. Thus, the government provide all the basic services to the people and look after their benefits. It says that the government which is elected by the people, of the people and for the people should work for the benefit of the people, right? And this is the welfare services of the people. Therefore, these type of activities are provided to the people by the government. I hope you are clear. Please go through in the book the chapter in detail, and if you have any doubt, you can write your doubts in the comment section. I will be able to clarify them. God bless you, children. Have a good day.